Hey, welcome to your 2 o'clock tasting and your keto tip. My name is Stephanie. Welcome to the Keto Mom page. And we're going to talk about whoever said that when you make a main meal, you needed 2 sides and a dessert. Who said that? Time to change the norm. I truly believe that we do things just because it's always been done. Right? We do things because they've always been done, or maybe that's the way that we grew up. Grandma always did it that way. My mom always made that food, or my dad always made it that way, right? We always had dessert after supper. We always had 2 side dishes with our meal. Why do we do the things that we do today? Why do you do it? I'll give you an example and I'll tell you a story real quick. First of all, as you're tuning in, where are you tuning in from? And we're going to talk about, I'm going to give you a keto tip and an extra flavor till I get more in the mail, but I'm going to shake up Maui Punch, my mom fuel. I drink it every single day. I drink usually 2 in the day, but for the first year I only drank 1. And it's a powder. You put it in some water, you shake or stir it. I stir it, but most people shake it. And I love it. So lots of flavors. I'll share more at the end, but if you want to know more at any point in time, just post 5 in the comments. It puts you in ketosis in under an hour. It's incredible. Like, the energy is unbelievable, fat loss and focus and so much more. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. So have you guys ever heard the story? Let me ask you this question. Thanksgiving is coming up. Thanksgiving in the States, right? If you're from Canada, hello from Canada, or any other part of the world, you celebrate your own Thanksgiving. But the United States will celebrate our Thanksgiving here in a couple months. My question to you is this. Who cuts off the ends of the ham before you put it in the oven? Does anybody do that? Have you ever cut off the end of the ham before putting it in the oven? Or do you ever find yourself doing certain traditions and then somebody says, why do you do that? And you go, I don't know, Grandma did it. So I heard a pastor one time to ask his mom. They all were getting Thanksgiving ready and they were getting the ham ready. They cut off both ends and put the ham in the pan and put it in the oven. And the pastor asked his mom, why do you cut off the ends of the ham and put it in the oven? Why don't you use the whole thing? And the mom said, oh, I don't know, Grandma did it that way. And the other grandma did it that way. And then he went to ask Grandma, or the great-great-grandma, or how many greats, I don't know. And the grandma said, well, I had to cut off the ends of the ham because I didn't have a big enough pan to put the whole ham in, so it just fit in my oven that way. There was no rhyme or reason. There was not a reason to cut off the ends of the ham. It was because she didn't have a big enough pan. But everybody down the line did the same thing that Grandma did. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's so funny. Because oftentimes we cook a certain way, we eat a certain way, we eat at certain places because our parents did, or the way we grew up, or it was our environment, right? And so I grew up with, my mom would make a meal, but we always would have 2 sides. We would have a veggie or maybe a starch, always would have some bread on the table. And you can for sure bet we had a dessert. That's how I grew up cooking for my husband for years, until he wanted to lose 50 pounds, until he wanted to do the keto diet. And I thought to myself one day as I was making food, who says we have to have 2 sides? I know. Somebody asked me a while ago, I was making a steak and I put the steak in the air fryer and we were going to have that for supper. And somebody said, what are you having for sides? And I said, nothing. And she was like, why? And I said, the steak fills me up. I'm fine with just the steak. And it baffled her, right? And then I thought to myself, why do we always have to have sides? Or like when you go out to eat, do you ever look at the amount of food on your plate do you ever look at the amount of food on your plate? Because it's usually a ridiculous amount. And then you feel like you have to eat it all because you paid for it. But then do you ever think to yourself, all of that food is in my stomach? So here's my tip, right? I share all of the stories and things. Just because you did something a certain way in the past, or your family did, or because we always have 2 sides. We always have bread with our supper. We always have a dessert after. We have to have a dessert. Listen, for the first probably 5 years of our marriage, I was the queen of cake and cookies. There was never not a sheet cake on our counter. And I justified eating it every single night because there always had to be a straight line. So I'd go into the kitchen at night I'd make sure the line was really even. If I accidentally ate too much, I'd have to go all the way across to make sure it was even, right? It's how I grew up. We always had desserts. We always had Debbie snacks. And just because I did that earlier does not mean I have to do that today. So my challenge to you is this. Pay attention to why you do things, why you eat certain things. Do you always have to have bread and butter on the table? Because my husband's grandparents do. I'm like, why do you always have to have bread and butter? You don't need that. We always do. You don't need it. Why do you? So here's the deal. And all of that boils down to one thing. It all boils down to overeating and portion control, right? And so something that we've done is sometimes we'll use smaller plates to help with portion control. You don't have to make a 3 to 5 course meal every single evening. You don't have to have 2 sides and a dessert. It's okay sometimes to just have a burger or just 2 burger patties by itself. And even if you don't have any veggies, guess what? It's okay. It's okay. Or sometimes it's okay to just have a salad. You might not even have any protein on it. But guess what? If you're sustained, like if you feel fine and you're not full or you're not hungry, you are okay, right? And so I don't know if I need to give somebody permission to go, you don't have to make 2 sides. You don't have to have the bread on the counter. You don't have to make a dessert, even a keto dessert. Because if you've heard me share for any point in time, I usually say 2 things. I say, number 1, do not eat if you're not hungry. Do not fill your plate because you're going to eat it. You can always go back for seconds. That's why we use smaller plates. Do not eat if you're not hungry. And number 2, oh shoot, what was my number 2 thing? That's so funny. I had it in my head. It was for sure, number 1, don't eat if you're not hungry. Oh, number 2, you can overeat good food. Like you can overeat keto snacks. If you're not hungry and you're over consuming food, even good food, you are overeating and therefore you're not going to reach your goals as fast because your body is still having too much fuel. Does that make sense? So like, don't think my plate looks small. Oh, it's only 6 ounces of meat. It's 6 ounces of meat and some veggies. Like if I eat it and I feel satisfied, then you don't have to go get more. You don't have to have the extra side. You don't have to have the keto dessert at the end. If you're having cravings after supper, here's my biggest tip. Well, besides drinking ketones, some of you asked what's in my cup. It's quite pretty. It's very delicious. It's ketones. I've been drinking it. It's so good. I've been drinking this for 6 years. Looks like this. If you want to know more, post 5 in the comments. I'll send you some videos and I'd love to chat with you about your goals and what you're working towards and how it can give you a foods list. All of the things, right? The energy's great. I help thousands of people with fat loss, focus. It's brain fuel. It's not a magic pill. It's a tool. All right. Your body can make ketones and you can drink them. So that's what this is. I love it. So this is what I tell people in the evenings. Ketones help with appetite control. These help with cravings. Sometimes I'll drink a small little pack if I'm really craving something but I don't want to eat it, like a half a pack of caffeine free. Comes in caffeine and caffeine free. There's lots of things that you can do, but here's the best tip. I should have saved this for a different day. You're getting a whole bunch of tips. And if you go to my stories, my daughter gave you a tip on dressing today. She was quite surprised. But here's the tip. If you, right after supper, I promise you it works, right after supper, if you don't have the sheet cake like I did in front of my face every day, years and years ago, go brush your teeth, go floss your teeth, go do your nightly routine. If you don't floss your teeth, start flossing your teeth. Go brush, floss, use some mouthwash, scrape your tongue. Yes, I scrape my tongue. Do you scrape your tongue? It's gross if you don't. It causes bad breath. Go do your nightly routine and you're going to find that when you brush your teeth and use some mouthwash, you're out of the kitchen, out of sight, out of mind, you guys, and the cravings go away. Like, oh, I don't think I need that cookie. I'm not actually hungry. I'm quite satisfied. I'm going to go drink some water. The kitchen lights are out. I'm not going to snack all night. I am done, and therefore I am on track for my goals. Make sense? So if you're just tuning in, I hope you had a great day so far. Where are you tuning in from? And I did write this on my cute little tip board. We talked about you don't need 2 sides and a dessert, why you think the way that you think, and portion control, right? Use a smaller plate. Don't think that you have to do something a certain way just because you did it all the time, right? If you are not hungry, you don't need to eat. You don't need to force feed yourself, and you should drink ketones. They're so great. Oh, you guys are funny. Seriously, brush your teeth after you're done eating, or grab a piece of gum. Like if you're at the office and you don't want to go into the employee lounge or wherever you work, or if there's always treats, like it's okay to chew some gum or get a mint. Or sometimes I'll take a little bit of peppermint oil, like actual oil, and drop it on my tongue. It's quite potent. Totally works. And you have good breath. So I think you guys are great. I hope you have a great day. Just because you've always done it doesn't mean you always have to do it. So I'd love to know, before we go, if you have any great tips that have helped you on this keto journey. Like if you had to share a number one tip with somebody so everybody could scroll through and look at your tip, what tip would you share? What is your, here's my number one keto tip that helped me on my journey to better? I'd love for you to share below. I'd love for you to press the share button. Always tune in. Always message me with your questions. I'm always here to help. Man, that's a lot of always. Very much an absolute. We don't like to use absolutes in our family because my husband will go, really? Always? Or if you're like, you're always mad at me. I'm dealing with kids right now for homeschooling. And I have an older one that's like not happy with me. I'm always, but for real, I am always going to answer your question. So reach out. I hope you guys have a great day. I appreciate you all. And we'll talk to you later.